I'm going on the same date with a girl that challenges me. Like, come on, man. What is your problem with this girl?
You keep talking about this girl.
So I'm trying to get
it.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. I don't watch with my throat. It's a little bit, coarse right now. I lost my voice last week. But we are talking to you guys today about Put a Ring on It. We're dealing with Alexia and dealing with Darian as well. Talking about, is Kai the real problem? I put it as 99 problems, but Kai isn't one. She isn't a problem, but she is a problem. And we're going to discuss what Alexia meant by her frustrations around, Darian got on that fourth date. And some of the reasons why Darian keeps saying, why is Kai a problem? Why is Kai a problem? We're going to kind of break down the issues of why going on a fourth date would actually cause problems in the relationship. It's all about the interpretation of the behavior and how someone interprets your behavior to be like. Okay, we're going to break it down for you guys in a few minutes. So make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification of what the uploads. We appreciate you. And for those of you who are returnees, you got the minerals. You got the minerals. Listen, you already know what it is. Stay hydrated. Listen, because why? The streets are hot. So grab your bottle down below and stay hydrated. All right, let's get into the show. Before we do, let's kick off with our little intro. Little Black Book. You know what time it is. So we have got Kai and we've got Kai, Alexia, and Darian in a situation at the moment. And Darian seemingly has seemingly at the beginning misunderstanding where Alexia is coming from. I personally don't think he misunderstands. I genuinely do believe he understands where she's coming from, but he behaves like a juvenile and it kind of just ignores what he's seeing. And the way I put it down is almost like he intentionally he's intentionally not being active about the situation. What I mean by that, the situation at hand shows us that that Kai is a problem because of the interpreted meaning of going on a fourth date, that you actually like Kai more than you're letting on. And so therefore, if you like this girl, why are you continuing to date Alexia? Because that would put you in a position where you like two women, and Alexia doesn't want to be in that position, right? It's painful, it's disrespectful, it's rude, and actually, really and truly, like, why would you want to be in a situation where you're between two people when me and you were dating and suddenly you want to date someone else? That's not going to happen. So I can understand where Alexia's coming from. What I'm seeing from Darian is what we see happen, and I'm going to mention this probably later on in another review with them too. What I'm seeing with Darian is he is aware but not being active. And what that means is this. Let me give you an example. Many of us are aware of Africa and the circumstances surrounding Africa, but many of us are not active when it comes to Africa. What do I mean by that? Okay, you can see the situation happening, unfolding, that they may need finances, they may need your help, they may need some of us to leave our jobs and go to Africa and help them. But many of us wouldn't do that, right? We wouldn't commit to a certain action. And so we're aware of the situation in Africa, but we won't commit to an action. We just don't care enough. Let's just be honest. We've got enough problems in our own life. We just don't care enough. And I think the same thing happens here with Darian and happens with Alexia. He knows Alexia is annoyed at the situation of Kai, not because it's Kai, but because he's finding himself beginning to like Kai. That's what she's interpreting, because you've gone on a fourth date. And so what he's doing is intentionally ignoring the fact that, at the very beginning anyway, ignoring the fact that, that Kai, the feelings of Alexia towards Kai. And so what he does now is what we call triangulating almost, right? But usually it's used by narcissists and abusers. I don't think that's where he is at all. I think, but we all use them. But I'm just saying that most of the time we see this often with abusers and narcissists. But I think we all have a tendency to do this when we're not thinking straight. We bring a third party to help come and mediate, but that mediation isn't objective. That mediation is actually on one person's side, and what happens is it becomes a ganging up. And I think what's happened here with Darian and Alexia is Darian begins to use Kai almost as in a triangulation process to almost double up on Alexia. Like when he says, obviously, what's the issue? Like, why are you so annoyed about old girl? It's not really about Kai. It's about the interpreted meaning of you going on a 4th date with Kai. It could be any woman. It could be another date. But if you went on 4 different dates with that particular girl, you'd be annoyed. Now, here's an extra added caveat to their situation. The extra added caveat is that that Alexia has actually seen Kai, so that's gonna create an impression straight away. Okay, she's gonna, and human beings do this without a shadow of a doubt. You are gonna compare yourself physically and see what kind of look he is. That's why she said she knows that this Kai girl is his type of girl too. She knows that, right? And so when she saw them, in the canteen, when they're having dinner or when it was lunch or whatever, and everybody was having their lunch and dinner next to each other, and next to their partners gone on their date, what she saw was Kai take the hand of Darian and leave the room. Now, had she had never been there and somebody seen them two and seen Alexia hold the hand the way that see the way that Kai held the hand of Darian the way she did, what would be the report going back to Alexia right now? Let me stay hydrated. Would the report going back be, I just, love the friendship between Darian and Kai that I saw at the restaurant? No, your first instinct would be, girl, I ain't gonna lie to you, I saw your man and he looked mad cozy because my girl was holding his hand and leading him out the restaurant. That don't look like a friendship thing. See, so that behavior was odd to see, right? It wasn't something that was friendship level. So already the alarm bells are ringing in Alexia's head, and I can understand why Kai is now an issue. It's not necessarily about Kai, it's what Kai represents. She represents a temptation. She represents a girl that's going to try and take her man from her. And what she sees from Darian is Darian not intentionally buckling down and saying, do you know what? I've gone too far now. Kai, it's okay. Let me leave it alone. But going on a 4th date, especially what's happened beforehand, kind of says to Alexia, you don't really care. You don't really care. You like her more than you're actually letting on, and that's a big problem. That's a big problem. And I think that's why Alexia's feeling the way she's feeling right now. Okay, let's play a little bit more of the clip and then we'll talk about it.
Things going over your head.
We need to go back in this building and sit in front of this lady who's trying to help us both.
Now, I already said earlier on that if you leave the room, sorry, I just want to get this thing back in focus. If you leave the room and you go off the way that Alexia went, you got to make sure that you got to make sure you're leaving for good. Because whenever you come back, you lose power. Okay, you don't just leave the room the way she exited and then think that everything's going to return back to normal. No, guys, don't go to extremes in your relationship. When you do that, what you're saying is, I can be brought to this level again and brought down again. This is why certain threats need to be reserved for actually when you're meaning the threat. Don't do the threat because you're emotional. Do the threat because you really mean it at this next conjunction. If you take me here, I'm not messing around. I'm not coming back. We got that's a threat, right? You don't play with that threat. Either we, you know what I'm saying? Like if you because what happens is men learn boundaries through your actions. Ladies, hear me out. Men learn through your boundaries. And so when you decide to walk off and say, I'm done pretty much, and you go back in after that, you lose power. Next time you say that, he ain't going to believe you. Next time you say it, he won't believe you. Okay? So yeah, let's just a little bit more.
I feel that Darian's being selfish. I feel like I'm here to work on our relationship, and I feel like he's just here to date Kai.
So the issue here, obviously, that Kai is a problem. Kai is a problem. As much as Kai isn't the problem, Kai is the problem because she really is putting on pressure on the man. But she also represents the temptation, like I said earlier on. And we've given her the name Kai, right? So Kai is a problem for Alexia. Now, I think what Alexia's trying to avoid is, I'm not trying to have a battle against another woman. And what we're seeing from Darian is he's trying to bring a battle between the two women. And she's like, I'm not trying to battle the woman. What I'm trying to get you to understand is I don't care about Kai. It's what Kai represents. Okay. What's interesting now, I want to fast forward it to the apology side of things, because I think this was really interesting to watch, right? You guys know I always talk about apologies and how apologies should be done, how they should be executed, what a good apology is. This is about to be a shambolic apology from Darian, and it's an apology that is done with a whole defense ready so that he doesn't get hurt. This apology is about him not being hurt. It's not about Alexia. It's about him not being hurt. Let's play a little bit of clip and you see what I mean by that.
For yesterday, I'm gonna admit what I did wrong, and I need you to be honest about what you did wrong.
So he says, look, I'm apologizing for yesterday, and I want to admit what I did wrong, but I also want you to admit what you did wrong. That is not an apology. You failed. That is not an apology. It's not even close to an apology. If anything, what you've done is shown your hand, because what you've shown is you can't apologize unless the other person apologizes. So this is really a mutual thing you're looking for. Not that you genuinely feel sorry or feel bad, but you can only apologize if she apologizes too. How badly do you feel like you hurt her? Right? Because that shouldn't determine your apology. You're apologizing because you feel like you have done her dirty, and you feel like you've crossed boundaries, or you feel like you've hurt the partner that you're with. You've caused some level of discomfort and pain towards a partner who you're with. So you're apologizing to let them know and show a sincerity that this wasn't an intended action or course. When you decide within an apology to then say, I need you to also apologize, it shows that you really haven't understood the assignment. The assignment was for you to apologize because you felt bad about hurting the partner you're with. Now, when you want that apology from her, that's separate. You don't include that in your apology. It's not an apology done so. That's not an apology. Okay, whenever you bring in the other party, what they should be doing, that is not an apology. The apology should focus on what you have done. Not because of, and it's not because of, and without explanation. I am sorry for hurting you. I didn't realize that my actions were leading me to move in such a way that would hurt your feelings. So I'm deeply sorry about what I've done. And you can say, yes, that wasn't my intended behavior, but I can see the distress and the pain that it's caused you. And for that, I apologize. Simple, done. I don't have to mention, so now you apologize because, you've done the same. No, that's not how we do it. That's childish. That's what we used to do when we were kids, right? And that comes from a level of pride and ego, because apologies require pride and ego to be surrendered when you apologize, especially when you feel like you're not fully wrong, right? Which is where Darian was coming from. He didn't feel like he was fully wrong, but that was not an apology, sir. Not even close.
Well, so we both can apologize to each other. When Dr. Nicole asked me, would I?
So he wants a dual apology here, which really doesn't allow for any accountability on his behalf, because it's more of a case of shared responsibility. And it doesn't really allow him for self-reflection of what his actual behavior is, because actually what he's really saying is, me and you both failed. So I'll apologize, you apologize, we're good. It doesn't really allow you to really self-reflect on your own actual behavior. You're really kind of trying to get away with one. And actually, you're not being vulnerable enough to expose yourself and say, I actually got this part wrong. There's a little bit more in the conversation, which I think is important.
I date Kai if me and you weren't together. And I answered speedily and hastily and honestly, you know what I mean? And I answered it that way because I...
Now I want you to notice something which is really interesting with Darian. It's the body language. It's the eye contact. I don't know if you notice, whenever he's having a conversation where he's seemingly getting deep with Alexia, eye contact is a miss. I really think he's got emotional intimacy issues. And when I say issues, it doesn't mean he's a nutcase or anything like that. It just means there's a deficiency in that area. There's an insufficient bank of knowledge in that area. And whatever's happened in the past has contributed towards this particular stance of how he deals with emotional intimacy. Whenever it's getting emotionally intimate, notice he shuts down, notice his head goes down, notice he looks away. The last time he had an argument, he had his head almost buried in his knees. Like, whatever he can do to not look at you and to focus on you when it comes to a conflict, or when it comes to him being wrong, or him being made accountable, is something which is really evident. He does the exact same kind of thing even in the joint couples conversation. Dr. Nicole, there's a body language that he continually uses as a default. Whenever they're talking, his head is up. Whenever they're talking, his head is up. He sits like that. And I really think it's about not being able to meet that person on a particular level. And similarly enough, or I should say even differently enough, if you see the interview with him and Dr. Nicole, and I'll do a separate video for that, where they talk about Alexia being strong, you will notice in that video that he gives her more eye contact. I think because there's no need for emotional intimacy. She is the therapist. He doesn't fancy her. There's no need for there's no need not to give her eye contact, but we see far more eye contact. His head's on a more level playing field when he's looking at Dr. Nicole. We don't have the same issues we're seeing right now. Look at this.
I thought that's what we're supposed to be doing, being honest. So when she asked me about Kai, I told her, hey, yes, 4th date. That was my honesty. It wasn't respected.
So you notice that he doesn't actually look, for the last 10 seconds, he doesn't look at Alexia. He has, I think there's a deficiency in emotional intimacy there. And it's very interesting. I mentioned this from the very first episode, talking about how, they asked him about emotional intimacy. And he said, yeah, I kissed Alexia in the first 5 minutes. Can you be emotional? That's not to do with emotion. That's to do with you wanting to kiss her. That's you being sexual. That's you being physically intimate, not necessarily emotional. Dealing with the emotions is dealing with self. It's dealing with the aspects that allow you to feel vulnerable. That you don't feel as in control, as in power as you were before, because you're opening up your heart now to really discuss some of the deeper thoughts that align with you. And so we see when it comes to those kind of deeper conversations, he doesn't give eye contact.
I feel I'm looking like the bad guy in this experience. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take the bad guy role. That's how I felt, like I'll be the bad.
Now, I do understand a little bit of his points here, that he felt like he's becoming the bad guy kind of person for being real and true to himself. Look, you can be real and true to yourself, and I actually genuinely do understand that. But what I think we're missing with Darian here is some introspective thoughts here. If you go on another date, it's going to send a signal to your partner they may not be enough, or they may feel like they're no longer a priority, or they may feel like you're switching allegiance, or you're liking someone a bit more than you're actually letting on. Therefore, there's a consequence to that particular behavior. But I do understand his thought process behind this also, that he wants to feel like he's part of the process. He's not trying to dodge the process. He's trying to go through it. But in going through it, I think he's starting to enjoy it a little bit too much. That's why I think Alexia's feeling the way she is. She can see that he's beginning to be drawn out. And I think she's not sure if he's been aware of him being drawn out, because it's down the 4th date with the same girl. But he may just be enjoying his time, right? He may be enjoying his time and may not be doing anything at all.
So I get where you're coming from, but when Dr. Nicole said, like, well, Alexia.
Did you notice as soon as the conversation started, okay, he started looking at her, and as soon as she said, but, his head dropped. And he said, oh, we're back here again. This girl will never admit anything that, she's done wrong or anything. I'm not saying that's necessarily true, but I'm saying it seems like his thoughts are going there. Oh, she's never going to admit it again. She's going to have an excuse for what she's talking about. She's always going to be, so that body language again.
How do you feel? That's my real feelings, and I want you to understand that. Like,
I understand it. That was wrong thinking.
That's not.
So here you go. And again, you notice again, he couldn't look at her again once more. He's still looking to the front of him, not to the side of him. And I think it's very, very purposeful. And I think it speaks a lot to his emotional intimacy and how he deals with that. He mentioned about the wrong thinking here for Alexia, her emotions. I mean, I definitely agree with her. It's not wrong thinking. It's the fact that these are my feelings and my thoughts. And this is what I feel towards the situation. It's not that she had wrong thinking, but you've got to begin to understand that. And then obviously when you give your point of view, she has to understand that. What we're looking for now is a negotiation in terms of compromise. Is it okay if I have a partner? Is it okay if I go on a date with someone else? Is it not okay? And then we start to compromise and start to navigate this by negotiations. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable. I think when we started off, we said no boundaries. And now all of a sudden, look, we need boundaries. But let me leave it there. I don't want to go too long. Let us know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are in regards to the situation. Is it the fact that that the Kai is a problem? I don't know if Kai is really the problem, but is Kai the problem for you? Would it be another girl? Would it be the same situation? Is Darian at fault? Is Alexia at fault? Let's have a little conversation down in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts and your feelings. Like, share, subscribe, Click on the bell button for notification of what up loads. We appreciate you to locked and stay loaded, and we're gonna go out with our outro, baby. Stay hydrated. You know what time it is.